All right. This was faster. I need to do a 60-second countdown because I'm trying to share to Facebook groups at the same time.
Oops.
And here we
Well,
go.
you'll be
Okay.
proud to know what I did. I was able to hit the old focus button so I won't get dinged by my
Good for you.
open tabs.
All right. Well, welcome to another Workshop Wednesday brought to you by schoolofbookkeeping.com. We're in our uniforms today. Yay. And hopefully, this should be broadcasting on our website, YouTube, and Facebook at the same time. Hopefully,
Like
um,
magic.
yes. And if you're watching on our website, you should be able to chat directly on the website. It's actually the embedded YouTube. So if you're watching on our website, say hi just to let us know. We need to make sure that you're there.
Tell us where you're coming, where you're seeing us. So
Where are
is
you
it
hailing? And
that way we
how
can,
far are we reaching?
where are you seeing us on School Bookkeeping Facebook page, group, whatever? Let us know where, and then we know, then we can double check and make sure this tool is telling us the same thing.
Right.
Because I don't think
So,
it.
so we took a week off there because we went to Scaling New Heights. We actually taught a few classes there, which was pretty amazing experience. It was first time for me, so I didn't know what to expect. Carrie was old hat with all this, and she was saying you're
I've done it
crazy for
twice,
doing
my third time.
you're crazy for doing more than one class, which yes, I have to agree that's probably the right mindset because it allows you to equally participate in the conference as well as prepare for your classes and whatnot. So um, my note to self, if they ask me again, limit myself to one class because it allows you to focus on that class and give it all the attention that it needs. And what was your class, Carrie?
My class was probably one of the best ones I've done. I was quite proud of myself looking
No.
back on it. Mine was what to do. This is particularly focused. Scaling New Heights is particularly focused to pro advisors, and the class was about what to do when Intuit makes some changes that affect your business. And I spoke to pro advisors about the changes they made with the discounts they pass along for wholesale billing for QBO, what they were going to do about their payroll models, because in the past there were ways to allow pro advisors to run payroll for customers. And I used to do that, and I used to uh, dabble in that a little bit, and then I moved away from it. And I like recommending ADP or QuickBooks Payroll instead, so that it's done for them. Um, but it was a whole discussion. It was real collaborative about. Instead of, and I didn't allow it to be negative, instead of being, woe was me, it was, what are some action items they could do while they were there to turn that around? So I thought mine was a good class. What classes did you do, Dan?
I did the client data review in desktop because I was asked to do some desktop classes because everybody else was focused on QBO. So we did client data review in the accounting tools in desktop.
Which I
We
missed
did a
that
we
because
did
it
a
was.
yeah because you decided to show up after the class was already over.
Well, it was so fun note, Scaling New Heights usually lands on Father's Day. So the only father in our team that went and taught was Dan. So I was still dabbling in Father's Day here in our
Shenanigans.
shenanigans. So I had to do a split time. As soon
Uh,
as I could break away from the Father's Day shenanigans, we got in the car, 5 hour drive. There we were, but we missed the class.
and then I did one on desktop file utilities. That was a really good class about data damage that happens in desktop, condensing, some of those things that you don't really go into accounting for, as how to fix a QuickBooks desktop file when it becomes damaged. So
Oh,
some
and
uh,
I have to add, I
mm,
heard at least 3 times from 3 different people that stopped to write down a tip or trick of how to like not have to back something up before you rebuild, and
Hmm.
little shortcuts to get into different places in the notes and so on. I heard people say, and this is my favorite part, this made my whole Scaling New Heights investment worth it. So
Yeah,
that
and
was like an
that
awesome
being
part.
the last day of the conference was saying something, because that was after all, all of the keynotes and all of the other announcements.
People are
So for
usually
somebody to say that
half of them have already they're checked out
checked
and
out,
gone.
if they're not physically checked out and gone, they're mentally checked out, because there's a lot of information to take in. Uh, at one of these conferences, it's pretty exhausting, to go as just a participant, because
It,
they have something going all the time, to keep you engaged. It's almost like going to a casino and they pump you full of oxygen.
well, I wish they pumped you full of oxygen. There's no oxygen, so
Yeah.
you need it. But when during the day they have in between classes and the main, I always love the main
Hmm.
stage, just kind of get you pumped up and then find your class. And then during your downtime, you can have lunch and you can go to the different vendors and vendors that you may just be talking to throughout the year, and then meet new ones. And to me, it's so overwhelming. You almost need a game plan. I always wing it. You get drawn in by some swag. But,
Well, I
we're
mean, like Expensify had this huge
far.
booth with a second floor with a lounge in it where you could actually get alcoholic drinks.
And not
And
just any old alcoholic drinks, they had premium.
yeah,
So
top shelf stuff.
they stepped up they sponsored the food. Usually the food is mediocre. The food to me this year was really good. I mean, even like peach tea and stuff like that. So it was a fun experience, having been home or work from home for 2 solid years and missing 2. They still had 2 Scaling New Heights in the meantime that we chose to miss and not take a chance because we didn't wanna get COVID, and Shazam, people got COVID from it. The 2 on the screen here did not,
Yeah.
luckily. Um, I
Yeah, I'm
feel
on I'm
very
on day
grateful.
5 after symptom free, so I think I'm going to take my
I think I'm
precautionary test just to make sure that I'm in the clear. But so far so good.
So far so good, and then we had 3 team members show up, and they left early on Tuesday, and so far so good. So I think we as a team are in the clear, so phew, on that. Probably not been as lucky if we had to, if it had been, a year ago or 2, because
Yeah,
it was a
maybe.
lot heavier then. So,
So
anyway.
I did post our the school bookkeeping landing page. So if you didn't get a chance to attend and you would like to be able to download the material that we delivered during the Scaling New Heights, you can sign up for it there. There's also a promotion that's going to expire tomorrow. If you're not an existing member of School Bookkeeping, the premium or core, you can get 40% off for life for the and that will expire actually tomorrow in correlation with the Scaling New Heights conference. So, a couple things that we wanted to talk about and touch on today. We were going to have, of course, Kate was going to be joining us from ADP, and we're going to talk about some more payroll things. But I think we'll table that for next week because, just as Carrie had mentioned, sometimes there's Intuit shenanigans that that go on, and you have to deal with those types of things. So, I wanted to share my screen here, and we want to talk about a little bit about a new one that just happened today. You want to set it up here, Carrie, while
Yeah,
I'm
so
yeah.
first of all, I've been in the reseller program since 2008, and the hardest person that we compete with is Intuit. So they're one thing that they invest heavily in. They invest in their products and so forth, but they invest a lot of money in marketing. So they in their marketing and actually, as I said in my class, we as pro advisors get really, really frustrated. Why are they doing this? Why in the world are they doing it? So as we can see in this email, this
Yeah. So
letter,
what you posted here on Facebook is an
yeah,
email that was sent to all of your, you said
all my desktop
all
clients.
of your desktop clients, right? And
So let
um,
me give a background of those. Those are my clients that are happy. They're in the They know that
happy in
they know
desktop,
QBO might be in their future, but they're tracking inventory or job cost, and we have told them stay put until the features are there or we have a
right?
solution. So they're happy as a lark, minding their own business, keeping the noise
Right.
away, and they get this potential security risk due to end support for your QuickBooks desktop browser. Well, that's enough for
Right.
my client to literally have a heart attack and email me
Right.
and say, "Now what?" Last thing we want
Yeah.
is a hack.
So this will certainly get your attention, right? As you're getting an email, but
June
the
15th already passed. Oh my
June
god.
15th is in the past, and you're getting this today,
Yeah.
2 weeks later, right? But the backstory here is that every web page that's in QuickBooks Desktop, so that whether you're going to the help menu and you know find a pro advisor, find a local expert, or um,
They
anything that
probably
looks like a web page that's inside of QuickBooks Desktop is actually using Internet Explorer to display them. So if it's got a hyperlink or things of that nature, you will see. You'll be able to click on it just like you are clicking on a web page, and sometimes you'll see pages that actually are web pages inside of QuickBooks. But QuickBooks Desktop will be using and has used since the dawn of time, Internet Explorer as its embedded web browser, regardless of whether your default web browser is Chrome or Firefox or Safari or whatever. Right? It doesn't matter what your computer says is the default browser. Anything that's inside of QuickBooks will use Internet Explorer. So Internet Explorer has been on the chopping block at Microsoft for a long, long time. And they stopped developing it when Microsoft Edge came out with one of the versions of Windows. I think it was 8. So that's how old
what are they what
this
is enter what is Microsoft using as a browser now?
Edge. Yeah, Microsoft Edge,
Edge. Okay. I've
which
never even
which
touched that.
which 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 horribly enough, the logos are almost identical, right? Like there's a light blue E for for Microsoft Internet Explorer, and then there's a little darker shade of blue E. It's still lowercase. I mean, it looks almost identical for Microsoft Edge, but then they changed it to kind of look a little bit more like Chrome, but it's still the different shades of blue. So by looking at it, I remember talking to somebody, and it's like those people should sue. I'm like, well, they're the same company. I mean, so so they have the same problem that Intuit does. Sometimes, they have browser wars in and of themselves.
So then
Um,
instead of just moving this to Edge, they just created
right,
their own
right. So Intuit, and it makes sense. Rather than having to deal with the security
this nonsense.
protocols and things like that with another default web browser, they decided to create their own internal web browser, and utilize that to be able to do that. So that's the replacement for Internet Explorer. So all you have to do, if you're a desktop client, if you're using desktop, all you have to do to get that is just update your QuickBooks. Right? You just
Right.
download the update, and you'll get the new embedded internal
Now,
browser, and so this potential security risk will be alleviated because it's no longer dependent on Internet Explorer to do those
what
pages, because it's basically a sinking ship, right? So if you're relying on if the program's relying on a web browser that's not up to security protocols to block nefarious people from doing things, that does pose a security risk when you're in your QuickBooks, for somebody to maybe sneak in, find some data. You've got a lot of personally identifiable data in your QuickBooks, so that's why it is a security risk to use to do that. But as long as you've downloaded the latest update in QuickBooks, all versions. So I'm going to
Okay,
also
so
put
I
in
got that wrong.
all live versions. So I'm going to post this as a um,
I need to let
as
my client that emailed me originally in this know that she just needs to get the latest
yeah,
update. If she's in 2021, she's fine.
yep, yeah, and it's current versions of QuickBooks. So 2020, 2021, and 2022 will have this browser. So they just need to download the latest update, install it, and then they're good to go. So they don't have to do anything. But the email doesn't mention anything about that.
Right. So
Right?
curiously enough, it just mentions currently using an unsupported version of desktop, which made me panic and think my customer had to go ahead and buy 2022 subscription when she's currently on the last non-subscription version of QuickBooks. So it's
Hmm.
tricky marketing, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a fine line with what it is, what they're doing. But then you can see, oh, all you have to do is just update to QuickBooks Online. Easy enough, right, Carrie? You just sign up for a whole new,
No, because the
a
customer I
whole,
have is on point of sale with that is designed to work with desktop financial accounting, and she's got it
yeah,
working. If she moved her stuff, she'd be in a huge disaster.
yeah. So this is definitely not something that someone in that situation would want to do, because QuickBooks Point of Sale doesn't even talk to QuickBooks Online. But they don't know that, right? Like they don't know other things that are happen to be there. That just that solves for QuickBooks's issue, not the entire business. So, and that's what QuickBooks solution providers like Carrie and other folks will will be able to speak to, and that's why you're getting this influx of emails now because of this trigger event of this particular email. I saw another version of this where it would just say, all you have to do is update. But now it's, I guess because it's 2 weeks later and they're still detecting that they haven't updated or whatever it is that caused this email to come to them. Just bear that in mind. That they would only need to download the latest update inside of QuickBooks and then get the internal browser here. So I posted both of those links.
So,
Um,
and so to clarify, because I'm fixing all my updates posts because I got everybody on
you got
fire.
everybody in an uproar.
So here's my question. So what version is supported? 2021 and 22?
Yeah,
The last three. Okay.
2020, 2021, and
Hmm.
2022.
2020 is kind of a cursed land of stuff, but okay,
Yeah.
I've got to fix my thing to say. And you go to where do you go, Dan? Just so that I'm very clear. You go to help and then
Yeah, you
update the latest.
mhm.
What is
Yep.
it?
There's a link there for it, right there in that article that I sent out to update the latest release. Even give you a
Latest
little
release. That's
video
the
of
word I'm looking
how
for.
to update it, and then how to install said update. You can do a manual update, downloading it directly from Intuit's website if you wanted to. If it doesn't work, inside the program. So now you're fixing your
Yeah, because it was
Chicken Little
right.
sky is falling posts. But I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they do that causes
Fear. It's a
um,
marketing
yeah.
trick called fear. And actually, in the reseller program, we were taught it too, like, create fear of not getting something done. Like, here's an example. Somebody comes to us and they're saying, "I don't have my inventory recorded and properly set up in my software." Any software, they come to us completely doing nothing. One of the things you were supposed to say is, "Well, what's the cost of not doing anything?"
Mm,
What does it cost to simply do nothing? Well, it might cost you a lot if you're not tracking your inventory. You might have people stealing it. You might be having people selling it below your cost. There's a lot of things you can do by mismanaging that huge asset. So, anyway, this peer marketing works, and I would have hated for my client who's happy, not mine. She's keeping her, keeping things so organized. Uh, Super cool company. It's a equestrian supply company, horses and tracks. Remember we were doing consignment? She tracks like saddles and stuff.
Mhm.
Really neat. So she uses QuickBooks as a tool to manage her business. She uses everything,
Yeah.
but boom,
But at least she has a good enough relationship to you that she reached out to you before acting on that email
yeah,
because of the security risk.
yeah.
And yeah, so that's that. If you have any questions or concerns, please put a comment or something in the chat on the YouTube, Facebook, and we'll be able to speak to that. So another thing that I wanted to talk about is this this concept of in QuickBooks Online. So we're going to talk about QuickBooks Online for a moment. um, when you send an invoice out of QuickBooks, and at least we're talking about something that Carrie loves is payments, right? So when you send an emailed invoice out of QuickBooks and it's payment enabled, meaning that the customer can pay it online. If they pay by ACH and then or if you charge it from inside of your QuickBooks by ACH, and they do a couple things with that payment that cause that to be the disposition of that payment to be um, final, such as a dispute. Like if they see something on their card or on their in their bank account, they don't recognize it, so they call the bank and dispute it. Or there's a non-sufficient funds in the ACH and it bounces. And we've had um, prior workshops about how to deal with those things when they happen. But when you email an invoice out and it charges those ways, and there is a dispute or a non-sufficient funds, those two payments are final, right? Like you can't do anything with those. You can't undispute a payment,
You just
right, and
simply
then have
start
it
over.
charge. You do have to start over. You can't say that there were funds in in the non-sufficient funds. You basically just have to charge them again, right?
Okay.
So QuickBooks has a function or a feature called an invoice tracker, right? So when you create an invoice and you charge, and then there's a payment associated with it, you can kind of follow along the process. So it'll say that it was sent. It'll say that it was seen. It will say it was paid, and it will say is deposited. The only thing you have to do is send it, right? And then everything else is then automatically updated for you, right? So when you have a situation where this is a long, uh, long explanation to get to what. So when you have a situation where you have sent the invoice, they've paid it, it's been deposited, and then they've disputed it, or there wasn't enough funds. The invoice tracker, and I'm going to share my screen again here. The
So
invoice tracker shows this nasty red ugly thing that says needs attention. I got to update the the plurality of an invoice that needs attention in QuickBooks Online. I just created a blog article about it
okay.
today, right? So you can see this invoice tracker here. We
Ew,
blurred out. Yeah, it's nasty looking, right? It's red. It's
you
like
have
this,
to handle it.
right? And you get this needs attention, $400, and until you resolve it, until you correct it properly, it will always say needs attention. Now, Intuit created an article, right? Um, they created an article where you can basically what you do new invoice, point it to and handle that. You handle the accounting with the new invoice of the transaction being pulled back out of the bank account, because that's really what's happening. And then you tie the failed payment to it, and then just re-invoice the customer from your original payment. They pay
Does it
you, all is
does
good. But
does it let you go to the original invoice and copy
yep,
it? So you Okay,
Yeah.
so if you had like
Well,
7,000
you wouldn't want
items.
to you're not copying the new invoice. You're creating a brand new invoice. The way this
Yeah.
article is written, you're creating a brand new invoice for pulling out the payment account, right? You're doing you're creating an item for bank reject and then pulling it
Oh,
back out of the bank account.
so
And that's what you reconcile.
the original invoice doesn't get tainted if you're pulling inventory and sales tax.
Yeah.
That will stay in place. Okay. I have a
Right.
method I did something similar to desktop.
Right.
So it's basically
Yeah.
you're bounced.
The problem is because
Uh,
what they're suggesting you to do is you tie the original failed payment to the to the new invoice that
okay.
is pulling the transaction out of the bank, which is fantastic. However, it doesn't resolve needs attention, right? Because it's a failed payment, and the invoice tracker is designed to look at the invoice and the resulting payment and say, okay, and realize, okay, what's the disposition of that payment? It still failed, right? So we had this post on Facebook that he was saying, I followed these steps. It still says it needs attention, right?
Okay.
So you've got this ugly red thing at the top. It'll show up on your dashboard with your
I don't
invoices
like
little
it. I need
gadget.
it to go away.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
No.
and you can ignore it, right? But that's not good enough for Carrie, right?
No.
You would never want to ignore something that says needs attention, right?
No. It would
So
really get on my nerves.
right, so to resolve the needs attention, right? So you still want to do the create a new invoice, tie the failed payment to it, create a new, and then resend your original invoice, get paid, because
Oh,
that is the
so you're
reality. So
moving that pay so
you're still
okay.
trying to understand why the duplicate invoice or
So you have your
why the
original
new invoice.
payment, and then you basically create a new one to, deal with the failed payment. You take that payment and move it to the brand new one, leaving your
Yeah,
original invoice unpaid. Am I
right. And
right?
then you send that again, they pay you again. Hopefully they have the funds this time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and
the thing, Dan. When this starts going down a rat hole,
yeah.
it's usually spells trouble.
Right, but even doing that, that handles the reality of getting you paid, right? And then you're handling the bookkeeping of the payment went in, it came back out because there was a chargeback. With the new invoice, all your bookkeeping is tied, but you're gonna have this needs attention still because the new invoice is tied to the failed payment, and the invoice tracker is designed to look at the invoice and the disposition of the payment and tell you what happened, right? And because disputes and uh, chargebacks or NSFs,
Yeah,
non-sufficient funds, are final, right? Like the destination is final. Like you cannot get back on that airplane and go somewhere else. That's your final
cash your
destination.
ticket. You've cashed your
It
ticket.
will it'll always be a dispute or an NSF, right? You can't resurrect and change that disposition. So the resolution for the needs attention is 2 journal entries, right?
Whoa,
So
we don't do journal entries in QuickBooks.
well, you can't, right? I mean, you have to do something to put something between the invoice and the payment because the invoice tracker is only looking at the direct connection between the invoice and the resulting payment, right? So if you don't have that failed payment tied to that invoice, it won't need attention anymore. So I worked with this individual today, and got some screenshots. I blurred out, the personally identifiable information. The problem with this situation is that you cannot reproduce it unless you have a failed payment like that,
Okay.
right? So
Well, thank
you know,
you,
you basic,
student, for
yeah.
this.
So you'd basically have to, in order to get these kinds of screenshots, we would have had to have non-sufficient funds or
Yeah,
dispute our own
we
payment.
don't run our business like that, so it would have
Yeah,
been hard to do.
yeah. So you created a journal entry. We create a journal entry for the customer. You credit AR and a clearing account, right? It doesn't
Yep.
matter, what account you're going to be using. It could he ended up creating it as a bank account, just to keep it all in the same part of the
Yeah,
balance
I've
sheet,
done that.
right?
Clearing account. Hmm.
So you have a clearing account, and then you have accounts receivable, and you put it to the customer. Then reverse that journal entry, which when you click on reverse at the bottom, then that automatically flips the accounts, the debits and credits of the account, and puts it in the next period. You can put it on the same day if you want. You go back and do that. But then what you do is then you apply the failed payment to journal entry number two, and that is now increasing accounts receivable for that customer, and then you leave a payment against the invoice and apply that to journal entry number one. So basically, you're using
Wow.
two journal entries to bridge the invoice and the payment. So then the invoice tracker then will look at the invoice and see that it's paid by the journal entry, which then now resolves the needs attention. And the first journal, the other journal entry that's tied to the failed payment is not an invoice, so there's nothing to track with an invoice tracker. So the invoice tracker feature doesn't track anything but invoices, which is what it should do, right? So now that failed payment is just kind of tucked under the carpet. It's buttoned up, so it's not soiling your
We don't need to
your
put sunglasses on to turn on our QuickBooks Online with needs attention.
right. But then um, that nasty needs attention will disappear,
Woo!
because that invoice was taken care of. So this is something that's just missing from this these handling the rejected failed payment, because again, QuickBooks isn't really concerned about the because this is handling the reality of getting paid again, right? But
Hmm.
not the needs attention part, which is a result of doing this. So
Good find. Good job.
yeah, so I'm gonna post that. Whoops, I'm not gonna post theirs. I'm gonna post mine in the comments as well. So we've got the blog article there to show, as a resource or a user, um, as a resource for someone that might be in this condition or predicament. So if you do need to correct the needs attention, hopefully those steps will be helpful. If you have questions, you can of course add a comment on the blog article as well, or or just reach out to us. There's a little bot on on our website as well, and we can carry on that conversation. So, does that make sense, Carrie? Did I explain it? Did I explain it good enough?
Good enough that if I were to run into that red thing and I couldn't figure it out myself, which it doesn't sound like I would be able to, I would come back to this article, bookmark it, and do the steps as
Yeah,
outlined because that is annoying.
yeah. Because I was trying to explain it to the individual on in Facebook, in comments, and he kind of got the concept, but he wasn't grasping it, right? But then once I walked him through it, and then we did it, and then we undid it because I wanted to make sure it worked first before I actually recorded anything from it.
Right.
And then we undid it and did it again, and then he totally understood it. Why
Good.
we were doing it that way. And there's probably other ways that you could handle it without doing a journal entry, but journal entries are super simple because all you're doing is just passing it through the clearing account. At first, I tried to do it with one journal entry because QuickBooks Online does allow you to use multiple accounts receivable on the same transaction, but it immediately applied it to itself, and it didn't give us the ability to use those transactions the way we wanted to. So we did have to create two journal entries, but the reverse button was nice enough to flip it around for it.
Excellent. Excellent.
So
Really good
so
resource. Good
so
job.
we interrupted our normal flow of of our workshop
Return.
Wednesdays, but I think this was a good workshop, right? Because we talked about some of the things that you might be coming across in the coming weeks, because that if you have clients in QuickBooks Desktop, that email will probably be showing up at a client near you, and you'll be able
You
to
might be
address
the
it.
end user going,
Yeah,
"Oh, no, I have to go to QBO." So desktop is not dead. It's not. Well,
right.
they want you to think so, but even they say it's not dead, and they get mad if you say it's dead. It's not dead.
Yeah,
You don't have to run because going from desktop to online is not it's not like just changing the paint color in your room. It's a huge workflow change. It's
right.
different. It's a different
It
world.
it's kind of like when you changed your couch in your old house, right? I mean, that was that was a
Yeah.
simple enough thing, but
I had to
uh,
change the whole entire house. It
one
wasn't
year
just
later,
we renovated the whole house, and we started with the couch because you can't just paint the den in an open concept plan. You can't just update one room of, the woods floors that the kids had scuffed up. You have to do the whole downstairs. So, yeah, you don't just dip your toe into QuickBooks Online and say, "Well, I wanna go back." I mean, you can do that. They tell you not to throw it out and if you wanna go back, you can. But it's a whole you have to go all in, and if you don't like it, it's not an easy reverse. So you don't wanna lightly just hop over there because of a fear tacking email.
yeah,
It's a
yeah, and that the way that email is worded would definitely
scare me.
scare people,
It scared
right?
me.
Yeah,
It made me stop and think, and it's real easy. Go to update your QuickBooks, reboot, whatever, get your, hosting provider to update it for you. Just do it. Just update that
mhm,
thing. That's
yeah.
it. You don't have to move,
You don't have to get a new couch and then
renovate your whole
subsequently
house,
basically a new house. I
and
mean,
then have
really,
all
that's
your
what
staff.
happened to you is not only did you renovate the new house, you sold it. Now you got a new house.
Yeah, we don't do anything small around here. We go for big, major,
Big change.
scary things. So I don't recommend it because it's not fun. It's not fun. And if you have staff and they love what they're doing and you move them to something new without any kind of warning, they won't be happy anymore.
Yeah.
So don't do it.
So next week we'll be
Easy.
talking about different ways to pay employees, pay those staff that you've now
Yeah, do pay
changed
'em.
changed.
Don't change your software, but do pay them.
Yeah, different ways to pay them, and then we'll continue on our normal cadence of our workshop Wednesdays. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on the workshop.
And have a happy 4th of July weekend that's coming
Yeah.
up.